My buddy Dean Obeidallah, the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show, weekdays 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Sirius XM Progress Radio Channel 127. He's also a columnist with CNN.com and a contributor to the New Republic. His Substack is The Dean's Report. DeanObeidallah.substack.com, or just go to Substack and plug in Dean's Report and it'll pop right up. DeanRadio.com is his website. Dean Obeidallah is his Twitter handle, or X, or whatever the hell it is these days. Dean, welcome back to the program. Hey, I got your, as you know, I subscribe to your Substack newsletter, which I absolutely love. And you sent one out, I think it was over the weekend, it might have been Friday, that was talking about how you have engaged in an effort to prevent Trump from getting on the ballot, and we should too. And I sent it to Louise and Sean and said, we got to get Dean on the show here. Tell me about it. Tell my listeners, tell everybody about it.
I think people have heard now some discussion of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and the idea that if you've taken an oath to the United States of America, and then you breach that oath by engaging in insurrection, you're banned and disqualified from running for office, or even being in office, or banned from being on the ballot. And so my article was about that. My article is, I filed a complaint, and so can you. And you should. But let me say at the outset, Tom, something a reaction some people have said, and I want to address at the top. Some people have said, well, is this some kind of parliamentary procedure, or is this a gimmick? It's the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, folks. You don't dismiss the 14th Amendment. We don't dismiss the First Amendment or the Second Amendment. This is part of the U.S. Constitution. It is law. It is the supreme law of the land. I saw some people sent letters to the Secretary of State going, well, I can't disqualify anyone. I have to follow the federal law. The federal law is the 14th Amendment. That's where it comes from. The idea that to be 35 to run for president, that's in the Constitution as well. It's all from the same place. So to me, the goal right now is to send letters to Secretary of States, urging them to have a hearing, urging them to at least consider it, because we need one Secretary of State, just one, Tom, to disqualify Donald Trump, and then it'll go to the court system where it should. And there should be a full hearing. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, I have no doubt, and it should be decided by the Supreme Court. But it's got to start somewhere, and I say it's got to start now, way before next fall. It's got to start now before the primary. So that's why I have a form email. If people email me, I mentioned this on MSNBC Saturday, I got literally over thousands of emails, like thousands. I spent the weekend responding. I'm glad to send it to you. You email me, dean@deanofradio.com, or go to Substack. It's in my article. You can copy and paste it and send it to your Secretary of State. We got to build momentum and visibility for this now. Let them know it's out there. So then one of them is going to have a hearing, and one of them is going to make a decision. And I think one of them is going to disqualify Donald Trump, and they should.
Yeah. Do you have any clues as to which state's Secretary of State might be most inclined to do so? I would think Dana Nessel in Michigan would be a good candidate for that one.
I'm sending out free subscription to SiriusXM as an incentive to all of the Secretary of States. I'm like, you want a free year of SiriusXM, disqualify Trump. No, I don't know which one's going to do it, but I will say this. I think New Mexico is a great place to do it because they already had a trial in New Mexico last year.
That's right.
A guy named Couey Griffin, he was an elected official. He was the head of Cowboys for Trump, county commissioner. He was there on January 6th. And a voter brought a lawsuit under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. They had a full trial. They had a historian testify about what did the insurrection mean in terms of those drafting the 14th Amendment. It's not our common understanding today of an insurrection as going to be a civil war. That's not what it meant. So first they had a trial on that, and they determined January 6th was an insurrection. And there are four characteristics. It's an assemblage of people. It's in a public space. It was to prevent the execution of a law, and it was used through the force or intimidation. So in New Mexico, the law now is January 6th was an insurrection. Then they decided that Couey Griffin engaged in the insurrection. And they said yes. And what did he do? He went there on January 6th. He encouraged people. He lied to people about the election. He cheered people on. They could see him in footage cheering the attackers on. He committed no violence of his own. He was convicted of a misdemeanor for going to an area he shouldn't have gone, but he did not attack anyone. There was no violence. You don't need a conviction to be disqualified. Just so it's very clear. You don't have to wait for the court cases with Donald Trump. You don't have to be charged with insurrection. You don't have to be charged with anything. That is absolutely clear. And the court found, based on his conduct, he engaged in insurrection. They removed him from office. He was a county commissioner, and he is banned. And now the New Mexico Supreme Court has essentially affirmed that earlier this year twice, rejecting his appeal. So in New Mexico, the law is now January 6th was an insurrection. I think the New Mexico Supreme Court, Secretary of State should be the one being the charge. They could say, here was our courts already said, we have determined based on the January 6th report, Donald Trump is engaged in an insurrection. It was his job. He brought everyone there. He used forced intimidation to prevent the execution of a law, namely the Electoral Count Act, and he's disqualified from the ballot. Then it's got to go to the courts. It really does. I believe, I'm a lawyer. I believe it has to be a due process. Hearings, Trump's lawyers can argue. It's got to be, everybody's got to see this play out, at least hear the audio of it in the Supreme Court. How the Supreme Court's going to rule, I don't know, Tom. But Supreme Court justices, most of them, except for Thomas and Alito, they're institutionalists.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised to protect the institution and get rid of Donald Trump once and for all. They rule that he engaged in an insurrection.
I'm curious your thoughts on, there was an op-ed that I shared in the last hour of the program that was written by a lawyer over on Daily Kos. It was titled, The Conservative Call to Disqualify Trump is a Trap.
Right.
And are you familiar with that?
I've seen something like that. I mean, Lawrence Tribe is one of the people championing this as well. So Lawrence Tribe is certainly no conservative. He's a liberal, very liberal professor from Harvard University. Here's the reality. I don't care who's championing it.
Well, first of all, can you articulate their position in short form?
I've seen different reasons why there are certain people who don't think this is a good idea.
Right.
And the idea, it's going to make people mad. I get emails, you're going to make MAGA angry. I'm like, have you seen MAGA? They're pretty angry.
Yeah, no, I think this argument was that basically it's kind of what they're hoping is that this will make it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will say no. The only mechanism is impeachment. That's the mechanism that's in for the president or for a former president or any member of political office. And the problem is that impeachment has a 2/3. It's a much higher bar. A majority of members of the Senate voted to impeach Donald Trump, but he didn't get impeached or he didn't get removed from office.
I think our Supreme Court has a corruption problem, but I believe in it. And if they find that and they have a ruling and they articulate it, and that's the ruling that Donald Trump did not violate the 14th Amendment, Section 3, I will live with it. What I won't live with is refusing to use every legal tool in our arsenal to protect our nation from fascism. Yeah. If historians are going to look back and go, why didn't they use everything? Because some guy wrote an article and I'll bet, you shouldn't do it. Don't listen to those people. Historians are going to look back at us and say, what did we do to protect our democratic republic? If we didn't use the Constitution, then we have failed. So let's use it. And if it fails, it's fine. But you know what's going to bring more attention to the insurrection? It's going to bring more attention to Donald Trump's role in it. It's going to make Trump be in court again with lawyers spending more legal fees. So no matter what, it's good. And it's Trump not talking about the real issues. Just talk about Donald Trump, which is what we want. Right?
No, I totally get it. You were talking just a minute ago about a free year of Sirius XM.
I'm kidding.
Who are you offering that to? Oh, you're just kidding. Okay.
The Secretary of State. We're going to give it to the Secretary of State. And it's an incentive to disqualify Donald Trump. Yeah. So I'll send them free food. I mean, whatever. No,
I'd pay for a year of Sirius XM for a Secretary of State who does that too. Although I don't think they can take it. I mean, that's an emolument.
No.
But
unless they're a Republican. I understand the New Hampshire Secretary of State is considering it and wants the Attorney General of the state to give an opinion.
Oh, really?
That's what I read. Yeah, it's in the Boston Globe over the weekend. People are considering this, and it's not a vacuum. I think a lot of discussion does not mention the New Mexico case like it never happened.
Right.
The New Mexico case is really clear, folks. It was a trial. It wasn't just a hearing. Experts testified about what was insurrection under the 14th Amendment. In my article on Substack, I go through it all. Also in my Substack article, you can click on the Congressional Research Service, historic look at the 14th Amendment, and look at what providing aid and comfort to the insurrectionists mean. I think Donald Trump's guilty of that as well, and that would disqualify him. I didn't add it to my articles. My articles are already really long. I'm like, no one's going to read all of this. It's a treatise. So I think that he's also engaging and also aid and comfort. And that under the 14th Amendment, the plain language of Section 3, aid and comfort is simply giving overt acts in support of the attack. Like Donald Trump tweeted in the middle of the attack, Mike Pence let us down.
Right.
That would be an overt act as they disqualified people who tried to serve in the in Congress after.
Yeah, I totally get it. And so for people listening, if you go to Dean's Substack, This is this the most recent article that you have posted? So if they go to
It's pinned on the cover.
It's pinned on the cover.
Of
Okay,
my
great.
Substack. I'm going to leave it there.
Just go to Substack.com and in the little search button, type in Dean's Report, and it'll pop right up, and you'll have Dean Obeidallah's, because not everybody can remember how to spell your last name, and go to the Dean's Report, and there is a letter to a Secretary of State that you can copy and paste, and you can email it. You just go to your local Secretary of State's office. Or here it's, you go to Oregon.gov, and there's all the state offices, and you click on the Secretary of State's office, then you click on contact, and there's an email address there where you can send stuff to the Secretary of State and just send it to him.
I agree. And to remind you, the 14th Amendment was enacted so people who are outside of our government trying to destroy it cannot come inside to destroy it. It's never been more relevant than Donald Trump. Yeah, absolutely. So check it out. It's at Dean's Report over on Substack, and this is really worth doing. Dean, thanks so much. Good on you. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it, brother.
Good talking to you. Yeah, thank you.
Nice chat.
Thanks for dropping by. We will continue in just a moment. The lengths seniors are having to go to shame Medicare Advantage providers into paying for their services, and the U.S. has declassified documents on the Chile coup. We'll be right back.